All right. So today I'm going to do a mock draft, and it's March 26th. Obviously, pro days are wrapping up. I think we know a lot already, and we're pretty much 30 days out from the draft. So let's get into it. Let's talk about it. And here we go. And I'm not going to do any trades. I don't have PFF Plus. I don't really want to pay for it today, but I'm going to look through. I could give some ideas about some trade because I do have ideas, but let's get into it. All right. Chicago, I think it's pretty clear. Caleb Williams. There was an interview this morning with Tom Pelissero and the coach of the Chicago Bears that I can't remember for the life of me right now, where he literally just praises Caleb as a human being. And it's pretty clear that we all know they're taking him. Okay. Washington. What does Washington do here? So a little bit of this mock draft is who I think they should take. And then a little bit of this mock draft is who I think they're going to take. Washington, Marcus Mariota was my sign personally, thinking that that's who they're going to take is a guy that fits that type of quarterback, and that's Jaden Daniels. Whether or not I agree with the pick, I don't. I think Drake May is the guy at that pick. But let's move on to number 3. If I had PFF Plus, I'd probably look to do a trade. The Vikings probably offer 2 firsts this year and maybe a first next year for Drake May. But since I don't have PFF Plus, I'm just going to pick anyways, and I'm going to say they pick Drake May. The Patriots are still thinking quarterback. They are still thinking of using that pick. It's just whether or not their roster's ready for it. All right, Arizona at 4, Marvin Harrison Jr. That feels like their guy. I'm not going to do any trades, and I don't think Arizona trades out of that spot. I think a lot of people are overrating how teams are going to get thirsty for J.J. McCarthy. I'm going to go Malik Neighbors at 5. A lot of this draft process, I was thinking, okay, Brock Bowers, Joe Alt, but they just traded Keenan Allen. Mike Williams is no longer on the team. Gerald Everett's no longer on the team. They need some more pieces at receiver. I know they have Greg Roman. I've already said in another video, they don't like receiver. But that's not going to change my mind. I think Malik Neighbors is their guy. New York Giants. Okay, so PFF thinks Rome Odunze. And I'm probably going to lean in that direction here. I don't see J.J. McCarthy going to the Giants at 6. I don't think they 5 years later go after a guy that's younger, a lot of potential upside that could later on be a disastrous pick, like Daniel Jones, who they still have to get off his contract. So I'm going to go Rome Odunze. As for the Titans, they need a left tackle. Joe Alt's been the guy throughout this entire cycle. Number 8, I think Dallas Turner. I think Dallas Turner has been this pick for a lot of people. I know that obviously there's smoke screens, so there's a lot of stuff, but I'm still going to go with Dallas. And number 9, so I've been going in a different route. I think PFF, Byron Murphy the second, Rome Odunze the second pick as well. Me personally, I'm going to lean towards Jared Verse. I think it's pretty clear. He has a ton of upside. He's very strong. He's very fast. He's my favorite edge in this draft, that including health reasons. We'll talk about that in a minute. So Brock Bowers at 10 is probably my pick because it's been rising and rising and rising. If I were the Jets personally, I'm thinking about building long term, probably looking at something like Fuaga, Fashanu, even Fawutanu. But I think they lean into Rodgers as much as possible. And Rodgers never likes the middle of the field, but this new rule change with the hip tackles, the hip drop, I think tight end's going to be even more important. So Vikings. Well, they stayed at 11 in this. I couldn't do any trades because of PFF Plus. So who are they going to take? J.J. McCarthy. And let's just get into that reasoning. The Vikings are the best landing spot for a quarterback. And signing Sam Darnold's a clear sign that they are okay with waiting on a quarterback to develop and settle. I know Justin Jefferson's extension has to get taken care of. I know Christian Darrisaw has to get paid soon. But this team is setting up pretty nicely long term. They have $70 million next year. If you factor in Darrisaw's 5th year and Jefferson's extension, that's around like $70 million. The team just signed Aaron Jones for a 1-year deal, so you're gonna, if JJ McCarthy ends up starting at one point, you have a running back that you can trust, and you probably draft more running back depth because you had a bad rushing attack last year. Your tackles are set. You want to look at more guard play long term, and maybe more of a better center long term, and interior of the defensive line. We'll look at that later. Broncos. Bo Nix is probably the favorite for this pick. I don't think the Broncos go in that direction. I think it's pretty clear they go Kenyon Mitchell or Terrion Arnold. And me personally, I'm going Kenyon Mitchell. His speed in some plays, his burst ability, his high upside. I know he's like a 4-year starter. I really like him. And Raiders. I think Fuaga has been a larger topic lately, and I'm probably going to look at him here just because they do need a right tackle. They do like that side of the O-line. But there's also another option, Terrion Arnold. And this is where the debate will probably start. There's probably already been debate with the Raiders fans, but I think I'm going to go Fuaga. I think they've done so much defensively. I think they finally say, okay, let's do a little bit more offensively. Saints. So this is where it gets a little bit more tricky, but I'm going to say Olu Fashanu. I think it's pretty clear. Rams check all the reports about him and his issues with his knee. He might not even play this year. He might be forced to retire. And Trevor Penny didn't work out at left tackle. They don't have any answers there. Olu Fashanu has been in debate to be the best tackle in this draft. I only picked Fuaga for the Raiders because they needed a right tackle. Fuaga's a great right tackle. Fashanu, he's great at everything else. So, Colts. I'm going to go Terrion Arnold. Probably Terrion Arnold. They lost out on L'Jarius Sneed for a trade. They still need a corner. Let's go get a young guy. Seahawks. So, I've been seeing a lot more and more of Laiatu Latu. I'm not going to go with that pick. Me, personally, I think I'm going to lean towards Jackson Powers Johnson just because they need so much in the interior offensive line. And then with the Jags. So people have been putting corner and corner and corner. That's what I'm going to do too. I like Nate Wiggins here. They need secondary help. Their secondary was not very good last year. And their new scheme does require secondary be a little better. Their new scheme is very good. They got the Falcons DC from last year. And the Falcons, despite some talent discrepancies, they were still like a top 10 defense. Okay, Bengals. There's some debate here too. I think they are going to lean defensive line. They just lost DJ Reader. They've had some defensive line issues outside of Trey. And I think they lean interior defensive line with Byron Murphy II. I think that's the move they make. All right, Rams. So this one became more and more of a debate for me because my favorite guy for them throughout this entire process was Laiatu Latu. He's my favorite edge in this draft if you don't think about health. I know he's had a lot of health concerns. That's the only reason I say I would take Verse like 10 picks ahead of him. But Laiatu Latu was the best edge in college last year. He was so good. But there was another guy that a lot of people liked. I think we get back-to-back interior defensive line with Jer'Zhan Newton. A lot of comparisons in the middle of the year to Aaron Donald in terms of how he dominated at the line of scrimmage. He was incredible at Illinois. And Aaron Donald retired, so you have a new need there. So with the Steelers, I'm going to say they go offensive line again, and I think Mims probably is their guy there since Jackson Powers Johnson's off the board. They could look at J.C. Latham, but I think they've liked Mims a lot in this process. And I think offensive line again here with the Dolphins. Fautanu is so good. I really, really like him in terms of he can play at the tackle, he can play at the guard, and he's proven in his pro day or in the combine, he has the versatility to do that at the NFL level. Okay, Eagles. So this one has been a little bit of back and forth with me because Cooper DeJean's been falling a little bit from people I've seen, and looking back at tape, you sort of understand why. But I'm still going to go him for them. I think he's versatile as an athlete and versatile enough to give you long-term success, even if you want to move him to safety. Vikings, since we stayed with this Vikings pick, I'm probably going to lean towards, since Laiatu Latu is still on the board, you probably need some more pass rush. I think that's the pick I'm going to go with here. Cowboys. So, we have an interesting situation here. J.C. Latham is on the board. I did not mean for him to fall here, and I probably messed up at some point because I could definitely see, the Jags looking at him. I could see the Bengals 100% looking at him, or Mims. I could see the Rams even looking at him. Steelers, Dolphins, even the Eagles. But I'm going to go with the Cowboys. This is not like a biased pick or anything. This is me just saying he's on the board. I'm going to take him. More likely than not, in most mocks, I'll probably end up with Tyler Guyton because I already have every tackle off the board by then. I want to make it as clear as possible. Not a biased pick. I really, really don't care what the Cowboys do. They're not. They're not. They are not getting me excited for anything. This is not about trying to make the Cowboys good. Okay. After that tangent, looking at the Packers, Tyler Nupin, I think safety value in this draft is so low that I don't think they just settle for a safety here. They could go Barton because of offensive line needs. Peyton Wilson would be cool too. Tyler Guyton would be nice. So I'm going to say, and there's some corners here too. All right. Packers, it's a tricky call because there's not a lot of thought out there about who they're taking. So I'm just going to say, for now, I'm probably going to lean towards Kool-Aid McKinstry. They have a pretty thin corner room. And the Bucks. Kool-Aid was probably my pick here, or even the next pick. So they do need off defensive line help, and Chris Braswell is a high end defensive line guy. I think that's my pick here. I think I'm gonna go Chris Braswell. I earlier in the process I probably would have said Chris Braswell's my pick here. I probably did that a lot earlier. I did that for Houston when Houston had the 23rd pick. But now he's falling back up, or he's going back up, rising back up, and then the Cardinals up next. So we already got them getting Marvin Harrison Jr. So who do they look at now? They got some defensive pieces this offseason for sure. I would really, I think Tyler Guyton probably would be the guy here now. And then Bills. So Adonai Mitchell. Brian Thomas Jr. Sorry, Brian Thomas Jr. is better than Adonai Mitchell, in my opinion, in terms of being a prospect. But they're not that far apart. I just think Brian Thomas Jr. also fits Josh Allen long term better than Adonai Mitchell. I think Adonai Mitchell fits another team long term better, and Brian Thomas Jr. probably will be the replacement for Stephon Diggs if they look to trade him this offseason, or if he requests a trade, or if anything happens in the next few years with Stephon Diggs, of course. Lions. All right. This is where it gets a little bit trickier because they did beef up their secondary. I think they still target secondary. I think that's their big thing. Like, yeah, we have a clear need. We will overdraft to fill that need. Running back, even though they just signed a running back, but that running back was injury prone, so you drafted a running back with high upside. Then you drafted a linebacker in the top 20, a middle linebacker at that. I think they draft the hometown kid. I think they reach a little bit here and draft Mike Sandstro. He projects to be a long-term, really good guy. And I might be totally wrong on that because I think he plays slot more often too. So it's going to be interesting. He does play a lot of slot, and they do have a slot already in Brian Branch, but they might move Brian more back into the box or into strong safety and it's just going to be depending on that. But he is a good depth piece that you could look at. So with the Ravens, this is probably where I say Ladd McConkey or Adonai Mitchell. Ladd simply just because of the scheme fit, because of how he's been there before, because he's worked with Todd McConkey or their OC. I could think Adonai Mitchell because Adonai Mitchell is CeeDee Lamb with less ability after the catch. And I'm not saying he could be as good as CeeDee, but that is his comparison from a lot of people. So I'm probably going to throw in Adonai just because they do also like their Texas guys. And this is where I take Barton because he gives you so much versatility on the offensive line. And I feel like in this entire process, I've always connected him to the 49ers. And I'm not an expert by no means. I'm doing this because I'm going to be an expert. And I get better and better every year. But I always have gut feelings about guys connected to teams. Latu, like I said earlier, I've always connected him with the Rams, and I could definitely still see that pick happening. But same with Jerzon. Early in the process, like October, I thought Jerzon, when I had him in the top 15, was going to be a Ram. He's only back there for me now because of Aaron Donald retiring, of course. Terrion Arnold has been connected to the Colts for me a lot. Fuaga, Raiders. Kenyon Mitchell or Terrion Arnold for the Broncos. I think a lot of people are just throwing in a corner in there. Jared Verse has been one of my like gut feelings for the Bears. I think Keenan Allen I don't think they target a receiver after that. And Marvin Harrison Jr. Cardinals, I feel like that's been everyone's connection. There's a lot of guys I just connect to a team, and that is a flaw of mine. And Adonai Mitchell was mine for the Chiefs. I could also see Ladd McConkey for the Chiefs. Troy Franklin, I don't see. I think the Chiefs have learned a lot over the last few years in evaluating wide receivers, and I don't think Troy Franklin would be their guy there. I don't think he'd be as bad as Sky Moore necessarily, but I don't think he'd be as like good as other guys at the NFL level. I think he projects the same problem Jerry Jeudy has, which is not getting that open and not translating from a college level to the NFL level. Ladd is my guy at pick 32. Okay, so let's talk about some of the picks I've made. So, PFF Plus again. Sorry, had to put the whole draft in frame. Okay, so obviously the first overall pick, Caleb. Jaden is my second overall pick. I don't think they should do that, but I think that's what they're leaning towards. I can't do trades. We've said PFF Plus like 10 times now. So I did Drake May at 3, and I definitely could see the Patriots still deciding to do that. Marvin Harrison Jr. with the Cardinals. And I probably shouldn't go through every pick, but I will say some of these picks. Bengals. Bengals could also do offensive line. I'll probably do another video about top 3 prospects for each team at their pick. And I think every team in this draft outside of the Texans and Browns have a first-round pick. It's interesting, and I don't know if a lot of teams are willing to give up those first-round picks. A lot of teams are willing to, or if those teams are willing to say, okay, well, this is like an insane year of talent, and this is a deep draft, but you want to get a first-round pick in with how insanely talented this draft is. So I think a lot of teams are going to stay. I don't think a lot of trades happen, but I do see most offensive line off the board by 20 or 21, I would say. Fa'utanu could go earlier, but that's also another thing I do is associating Fa'utanu with the Dolphins a lot. I like that fit just because of his versatility and their need on offensive line. But I'll also say Guyton, I probably see going Cowboys. Latham, I probably see going earlier. He could go to the Saints. Fashanu could go even earlier to the Jets or the Bears. The Bears are complicated. The Jets are complicated. Vikings, we probably think they're going to trade up. Broncos are complicated. Raiders, we know a little bit. Saints, we know a little bit more now. Colts, we know a little bit. Seahawks are a little complicated, but it's either edge or offensive line. Jags are complicated. Bengals, we think it's probably defensive line or offensive line. Rams, I think we all assume it's defensive line. Steelers, we assume offensive line. Maybe a corner. Dolphins, we assume offensive line. We could see interior defensive line. Probably not going to happen. Eagles, we know corner. Vikings, obviously, that pick is different. Cowboys, offensive line. They've given no indication anything different. Packers, that's the hardest pick in this draft, personally speaking. Bucks, definitely some sort of edge. I think that's what they're going to do. Cardinals, again, tackle or corner. Maybe even defensive line if there's someone there. Bills, wide receiver. Lions, corner. Ravens, wide receiver or corner. 49ers, O-line. Chiefs, wide receiver. I think after pick like 9, it's going to be a weird draft. It's a fun draft, though. And that's the best part of this. It is the best draft I've ever seen in terms of how deep it is, how much fun it is, how much it offers at almost every single position except like running back and linebacker. This is Son of a Sports. I'll catch you another time.